Hi guys, Nick from HiFi Collective here. Today we're going to be doing an upgrade of one of my favourite series of old school speakers. Celestion were an English company formed in 1924 and they stopped trading in 2003. They brought out a range in the 70s of Ditton speakers. So you had, going up in size, you had the 10, the county, and then you had the 15, the 22, the 33, the 44, which is what these are, and the 66s. This is a three-way system, great sound, big fat sound stage, good bass. It's the 96 dB, so pretty good for valve stuff. That's kind of, we don't have a lot of output. So what we're going to do today to kind of celebrate the fact that we bought all these weird and wonderful old school values of electrolytics, we're going to change the crossover. So we need to get inside, just take off the bass unit. We should have access to the crossover. So that's what we're going to do now. So we'll start off with the bottom screws, because obviously you don't want it coming out that way. The T-nuts in there, because that's threaded, which is always good. Gives you a good join for a speaker, rather than just a wood screw. So that's good quality. There we go. Quite a hefty magnet there. That's great. When you're doing this kind of work, it's always a good idea to take pictures as you go along. That's it. So you can see it's lined with foam. So actually, I'm going to take another picture of that. Yep, and there's the board. What I'm going to do, I need to get the drive unit out of the way so I can see the board. But I've taken a picture of it so I know which way around it is. You don't want to heat these terminals too much, because obviously it's connected to the voice coil, which is a bit of a thin wire generally. So I'm just going to snip them. Snip. So you've got your wires that go off to your bass unit there, the woofer. And then you've got here, where does that go underneath? So this is your mid-range, which is enclosed here. The tweeter bit is there. I'm going to change the wires as well. I'll leave the inductors because you don't know what the values are. You can probably find a circuit and figure it out, but to be honest, it's not worth it. Just keep those the same. I'm going to make a list now of all the parts that are in it, and then we'll go and pick some. Interestingly, there's no resistors in this crossover, which is cool. Right, let's go make a list. This is the component selection, pure caps only, and we're going to do a rewire with the Julian DCA 16GA, one of the most popular wires we've ever had. Inside, most of the caps are actually bipolars, so because we've invested in quite a lot of old school values, we've got the values. So we've got 72 UF here, Mundorf E cap, the plain type, the better type of bipolar cap you can get. They also do raw, which is a lot smaller, but not as good as these. 24 UF there, 6 UF and an 8 UF. And they do use a series of film caps. We're going for the ESA 2 UF, 250 volt, so that's there. So gonna pull everything out, get all these bits fitted. I'm gonna replace the wires anyway, so it's no problem to cut them. So for each wire that is connected to something, I put 2 stickers on. For the first one, A, and A, and I'm just going to snip in between so I know where it's come from and where it's going to. So here's your board, pretty simple. I'm going to approach this by going for one tag at a time. Basically, keep the original tags, just clean them up, and then introduce the new bits that are coming in. I'm going to use the fan because this stuff's going to stink because it's old solder. Probably got a bit of lead in it as well. Basically add the two UFs together, and that was connected. So we're going to set that up. For these, that's it. I'm just going to twist them, the leads together to keep them together. It's always good to have on display the actual value that's written down on the cap, the label, so you can read it. I've tinned the actual tag, ready for soldering the wire to, well, the pre-tinned wire will be soldered directly to that. There's also hooks on these tags. So now I'm going to measure the length of the wire connecting one tag to the other and just snip it on. Keep them as short as possible. You don't want long leads in your circuit. Right, desoldering components, giving the tags a clean. There's a lot of solder on these. And then soldering out the terminals. This is a triple cap configuration. Give them a good twist. Again, making sure you can actually see the values written on the components. Wire strippers are great for solid core wire, not so good for multi-strand because they generally rip off strands of wire. Here we are going in. So I'm applying some solder to the tag and then straight in with the lead out that's already pre-tinned. So you can see how I'm replacing, taking one off, then replacing, putting the new component in. Labeling is incredibly important. You have to, so you know where things are going. So make it clear. And take loads of photos. Just be careful of overheating. Sometimes, I mean, this particular board is pretty strong, but heating a solder tag can actually weaken the physical hole and it can fall out. But this Paxilin board is pretty tough. Always try and get a physical kind of hook into the tag. See a little label so I know what's going on. I'm checking inside the speaker to see where it goes, to see what length it should be. I'm applying new labels so that it gets wired up to the right place. It's so easy to make a mistake at this stage. So many connections going on. And there you go, getting rid of the old wire. That's it. So some of the lead outs go under through the hole in the tag. So that'll take a bit more heat in. Now look, there you go, I'm looping that round to give it a physical join. Solder that inductor lead out in. Put the wire that goes off to the speaker. Don't be scared that sometimes the caps are smaller than the originals. There's been big improvements in material use and wind technology with caps over the last 50 years. Keep the components flat to the board, stop them wobbling about. So, getting rid of some of the old wires. Desoldering. Needs a bit of a clean. On the reverse, this cap is a lot bigger than the original. That's because it's the plain type, big foil one. Get that in. clean, get rid of those excess leads. Soldering in the lead out. So even though we're keeping the inductors, I've cleaned up all the joins. See how that's stable in there now? It's not going anywhere. Then soldering in a new lead out. Cool, done. Snip that excess lead out. So now I'm going to work around the board, just following the same process, one joint at a time, replacing the old with the new. And I'm not actually working that fast, the tape's speeded up. Now all the soldering's done, gonna give it a good brush. You don't want any flecks of solder or wires touching the wrong place, so give it a good old clean. I'm using a paintbrush, toothbrush is good, something wiry. I'm gonna put the tie wraps on now to make it nice and secure. You can see in the original board there are holes to keep the components firmly in place. Just trimming them down. We should have 8 wires coming out, all nicely labelled. Before I put it in, I'm just going to have a quick scan of a picture I took earlier. Board's there, all the wires are correct. I'm just going to pop it back in its place. I've got a picture of the old one, just to make sure I'm putting it in the right way around. So drop it in. I'm just putting the washers on. Start with the tweeter. That's a flat head. Alright, there's loads of wadding. Beautiful. Done it. Right, well I am not pushing this wire through these holes here to solder into there. I'm not doing that. So I'm going to snip these and make the join, because if you look here, big old lumps of solder. By the time I've heated that up to get rid of all that solder, it could mash up the voice coil, ruin tweeter. So I'm snipping the cables, stripping them down, and giving him a twist, getting the solder down. You can see I've already put heat shrink on just to cover up the joins. There we go, so they're going over. Always be careful screwing these driver units in, because one slip you could put a hole in the foam. Now we're doing the mid. So feeding through the wires coming off the crossover. On this occasion, I can actually take the old wire off. make sure you're following the route of the original wire. Cleaning them off, give them a tin, and then popping them back in. So what I'm going to do, turn it on its side. We want wires A and B just to come through. Hello. So we're going to put our bit of foam back in. Obviously we need to have these wires accessible. Get the drive unit in. And then soldering up. Great. So the remaining thing to do is this. Right, that's done. Just got to put these back in. So we're going to play the upgraded one with the other one, just to see if we can, just an experiment for everybody here, just to see if you can hear any difference. I'll give you a list of what I've used to upgrade these. 4 meters up these DCA16GA we used, amazingly, which is quite a lot, but we didn't have it, there was hardly any excess, a few centimeters worth at the end, but yeah, buying second-hand speakers quite cheaply and then spending 80 quid on some upgrade components is a brilliant way of breaking your teeth on DIY upgrades. Just before I sign off, I want to say a big thank you for watching our videos. Like and subscribe and follow us on all the social network platforms. See you later.